Good afternoon and welcome to Applying for Transfer, a workshop to learn about transfer applications, financial aid, and scholarships for transfer, the various supplemental materials required, and advice on making a decision that best supports your academic and professional goals. My name is Ann Gamble. I am the Director of Transfer and Degree Acceleration, and I am joined by Courtney Topolsky, Assistant Director of Student Services on the Dundalk campus. Please know that this is being recorded, so feel free to reach out if you would like a copy of the recording or the PowerPoint. Okay, so today our goal is to provide you a solid framework to enable you to begin applying to your transfer destinations. At this point, you should be close to completing your degree, around 45 credits, or in your second to last semester, unless you're just here to get information to help you for the future. Today we will cover completing the transfer application, how to request official transcripts from CCBC, how to best make a decision, financial aid and scholarships for transfer, and then we will leave time at the end for questions and answers through the chat. If we run out of time, you can send us your questions. Okay, so moving right along.
So today we are focusing on completing the transfer application. So if you've joined us in previous presentations, we've taken some time to talk about how to do your research. And so we're going to look at the different types of applications that are out there, and I'm going to give you a peek at the common application as well. And so there are four main types of applications currently, but of course there could be something that is new or different that we just haven't heard of yet. The common application is the one that is most widely used in this area, with several hundred colleges and universities that participate. We're going to dive into that in a moment. The Common Black College app, which is an online application for HBCU schools, so historically Black colleges and universities. The Coalition app, which is a standardized application for about 70 plus colleges. And for us, that's important because University of Maryland uses the Coalition application. And then, of course, school-specific applications. Many schools still use their own applications. However, when we look at the Common App, you're going to see that most of the information that you need will be the same regardless. So we're going to go ahead and take a peek. Okay. And so this is a common application. I'm in a practice account as a faculty and staff member. As a student, you would have your own. And the way that it works, the first thing you need to do is do a college search. Okay. And once you've done that, you'll go into your Common App and it's going to ask you all kinds of information, your name, where you live, your pronouns. It's really important that you take the time to fill this out correctly and that you use good grammar. So make sure that you capitalize the first letter of your first name and the first letter of your last name. Make sure that you spell out your street address. It's going to ask you about your family. This tends to be the trickiest for many of our students. As a transfer student, possibly as an adult student, you're like, why are they asking me about my parents? Many, but not all colleges offer scholarships and different things for what they call legacy students. A legacy student is a student who's going to the same college that a parent or a sibling or a grandparent has attended. So they're asking you those kinds of information. You're going to have your education, your testing, your activities, and writing. This is where you would add your personal essay on here. And so it actually gives you some great information about how to structure and questions to answer when you're writing your personal essay. What I recommend for students is that they type that up in Word or another document software that you prefer, and that you then paste it here into the box. That allows you to make sure that you're using all of the right grammar, all of the right spelling, and using the software to help you. It's a maximum of 650 words, a minimum of 250. So this is a pretty brief essay. And if you attended a previous session, we did recommend that you use our writing center to have someone take a peek at that. You can do your college search here. And this is where you can look for a specific college. So as an example, we can look at UMBC. And if I could type, it probably would have popped up to begin with. So here we go. And we can see more information, or we can add it. And it's great once you go through all of this information, and you just really need to be prepared to step your way through it. Then you'll get to the end where you can enter your financial aid information based on the information you've put in your FAFSA, and then hit submit. The beauty of the Common Application is it does allow you to use the same application for multiple schools. So you just want to be really careful to make sure that when you're doing your personal essay, that it's reflective of you and your goals, and maybe not specifically one college or the other. One or two other quick points when you're doing any type of application, especially for the state schools in Maryland, they're going to ask you where you've lived, how long you've lived there, what the purpose is, and that is because they are verifying that you are indeed a Maryland resident. A quick look, this is the coalition. I don't have an account set up yet, but you can see that it's pretty straightforward to do that, just like creating an account for anything else, where you're going to give them an email, set up a password, and then your personal information. With all of this, please make sure that you write down your usernames and passwords and that you keep track as you go. Okay, so we are going to talk a little bit more about application fee waivers. So I'm going to ask Miss Ann to put our presentation back up. Okay, so many different application fee waivers are out there. So you want to look and see which ones work best for you. So we affectionately call the first box NACAC, which doesn't sound very appealing at all, but it's the National Association for College Admissions Counseling. You can fill out information with them and see if you're eligible for application fee waivers. Common App as well, based on the financial information you put in there where we were just looking. Many schools will offer financial assistance with waiving the fee if you're a PTK member, and then some schools will offer fee waivers if you have an alumnus support your application. So for those of you who are interested in Towson, Towson is one of those schools that does an alumni recommendation application fee waiver. So usually I tell students you need to ask around, family, friends, neighbors, coworkers. Miss Ann is a Towson alum. Now we can only do one a year as a Towson alum, so that's why I say spread the wealth. Talk to the faculty that you've had. There are Towson alums all over the place. And so that is a really good way to have your application fee waived.
All right, so now I am actually going to show you the FAFSA and how to add transfer schools to your FAFSA. So to do that, I just have to add. Here we go. So this is the FAFSA page, and I have fast forwarded to the school selection. So essentially, to add prospective transfer schools to your FAFSA, you will do so in section 2, as you see on the screen here. You can add up to 10 schools. As you can see, I have added 9, but I have the opportunity to add one more if I wanted. And if I go to add, you just see you can do your search by state or city, or if you know the school name, or if you know the federal school code, which each institution has their own, you would just pop that school code into there and then it would pop up. So I'm just going to go back to the previous screen so that you can see what I have selected. And this process ensures that your FAFSA, specifically your student aid report, also called an SAR, gets to all the schools you are considering so that when you apply to the school, there's a match and they can make a financial aid offer detailing how much in grants, scholarships, and loans are available from a variety of sources. Unlike CCBC, where community college, four-year schools are able to make you an offer before you accept admission. However, you should know it is preliminary, but it gives you a sense of the out-of-pocket and upfront cost. And so that's really nice. So when we say to shop around based on financial aid, it's based on those offers that you're going to get, but everything goes back generally to the FAFSA. Super important. As you can see for each school, you can select a housing plan, so you can be on campus with a parent or off campus. This helps determine the maximum amount of aid from all the sources that you will qualify for, also called or referred to as cost of attendance. And again, this is going to vary by school based on their cost and your housing plans. What's nice is if I scroll down here to the bottom, I can select compare all schools. So you can actually get a sense of the cost. So looking here, Bowie State University, this shows the in-state tuition and fees. It does not include the room and board, but this gives you the average annual cost. But you would want to increase that, or that would increase if you decided to live on campus. You can also see here a little bit of data about their graduation rate. So that's the percentage of students who complete their degree. Retention rates, that's the number of students who return after their first year. And then the transfer rate. The transfer rate, I think, is interesting because if the percentage is high, it means a lot of students are leaving the institution. So I would take it with a grain of salt, but consider that in the grand scheme of things as you're making a decision. And it also gives you the link to their direct website. So if you wanted to go to Coppen's website, that's right here. So this is really helpful, as you think about where you're going to go, but this is a key aspect of the process. So now I'm going to go back to the slideshow. And here we go. So some common transfer application requirements. So these are the key things that pretty much no matter where you apply are going to be required. So starting with official transcripts and test scores, and we're actually going to run through and show you how you can get your CCBC transcripts. But in the meantime, we'll set the context for you. So every school you went to, CCBC, Hartford Community College, anywhere that you went, it could be out of state, you're going to want to request official transcripts for every institution you went to. In some instances, they may also ask for your high school transcript, but if you're getting to the end of your degree here, most likely that won't be required. If you are a veteran or an active military student, you'll want to submit your military transcript for evaluation. Even if CCBC has already evaluated it and awarded credit, you're also going to have it evaluated by each of the 4 years. And then any test scores for credit that was granted through prior learning assessment opportunities. So that's things like advanced placement or international baccalaureate, which you may have taken in high school. Now, you would have needed to taken the test and gotten the requisite score, and it would needed to be transcribed onto your CCBC transcript, but you still have to send your official score reports to get that added to your new institution. If you took the college level examination program, also called CLEP, or the Dante Subject Standardized Test, DSST, you want to send those scores as well. And those are a little bit more common for our veteran and military students. Next most common transfer application requirement are the letters of recommendation. And so it's really, really important to make sure that you're asking a faculty member with whom you have a strong rapport already. And you want to make sure that they're able to speak to your accomplishments, specifically your academic skills and abilities. Because as the admissions reps are reading your application, they want to get a real feel for why you would be a good fit. The most important aspect of all of this is to make sure that you give your faculty member recommender 4 to 6 weeks. That's the recommended time frame. So if you know you're getting ready to graduate, um, that's what you should be doing now. And that is before 4 to 6 weeks prior to it being due. So something to keep in mind as you're sort of planning the process out. And make sure that when you submit that request that you also include information that the faculty is going to need, including what the process is. Is it electronic? I find that most of the time it is, but if it's something that they have to mail, where do they have to mail it? And make sure that you provide them information regarding the deadline so that they can get that out for you. And then finally, providing a summary of your accomplishments and or a statement of interest, because you want to provide some context about why you're applying to this particular school or this particular program. And then in a lot of instances, an essay is required. So this is outside of like just the personal essay. This is oftentimes an essay specific to the institution you are applying. So you want to make sure that you plan ahead and leave time to have your essay reviewed. And beyond spelling and grammatical errors, just make sure that your essay meets the requirement, you're fully answering the questions, and that you are clear and succinct in your response. And so, key takeaways are to spend time preparing, make sure that each step is completed on time, and build in some time for potential challenges that may come up. And so then you'll find yourself feeling much more confident.
I would just add, and something that came to me while we were looking at this and discussing it is that, and I know we mentioned this in a previous transfer session, before you put the faculty member's name in the Common App in the coalition to get an email to do that recommendation, you need to ask them first. So just a friendly reminder. So
Yes,
how do
thank you.
you get your transcript from CCBC, right? Because we just said you need to send your transcripts, and the transcript needs to be official. Okay, and so I'm in Simon, so Simon Self-Service, and you're going to go to your Students tab and come to Official Transcript. Okay, and so mine looks different because I was what they call a legacy student, so I can't just request mine online, but you will be able to. You'll be able to actually go through it, enter your information, request a transcript be sent, and pay for that transcript all through your Simon account. So again, your students, and here on Official Transcript, we are currently using Parchment as our vendor to send transcripts. If you have issues just like I did, then you can certainly come to campus, or you can go to the registrar's webpage and complete a paper request and have that sent in and their instructions on how to do that. So again, right here from Simon, Official Transcript, you need to send one while you're doing your application. And then once you've completed your degree and you've selected your transfer school, you're going to send one more time to that school that you've selected. Okay. So I'm going to ask Anne to put our presentation back up. Thank you. So we've sent you on a research mission. We've encouraged you to go visit campuses. You've done your applications, or maybe you're getting ready to do your applications and you have to decide where you're going to apply. When at all possible, if you can have a preliminary evaluation done of your transfer credits by working with an advisor at that college or university, that is key. You want to figure out how many credits from CCBC are they going to accept and how many credits will you have remaining to complete your degree. So while a university may accept 70 credits, if you have 70 credits to go, they may not be any better of a deal than a school that accepts 60 credits and you have 60 credits to go. Where were you offered the most financial aid and scholarship money? But also, how does that compare to how much money you're going to have to pay out of pocket or take out a loan? So a school may offer you a $25,000 scholarship, but you may still owe $25,000 a year, whereas another school may offer you a $5,000 scholarship, but you'd only have to pay $15,000 a year. So you have to look and make sure that you're comparing apples to apples, and as we like to say, and not apples to oranges. Which of these schools are going to best meet your needs? Can you go out of state? Can you go out of the Baltimore metropolitan area? Do you need to be able to work? Do you need your classes to be online? Do you need to work with folks who have the ability to work with an adult student? And finally, have you visited campus? So for all of the schools except those that are completely and totally online, we really want you to go visit campus because you could get to that college, go for a visit, and find that it is not the best fit. You should do your open house first where they've pulled out all the bells and whistles, and then we really encourage you to go during the semester when classes are in session. What does it look like to get there? How hard is it to park? How easy is it to get around? Are there other students walking around? And I know with COVID that it's a little bit different, so you want to make sure that you're following whatever COVID restrictions have been set by that college or university.
Okay, so now it comes down to making your decision and then accepting admission. So this is a formal process. You have to formally accept admission, and you will need to do so by the deadline. Particularly for competitive schools, if you don't accept by the deadline, they may go to the wait list and you will lose your opportunity. So really important to pay attention to that. You will also need to submit any required deposits. That there could be a deposit for admission, housing, and those amounts can range. So really thinking through that, making sure that you have money tucked aside for that. And then accepting financial aid and scholarships. So while the school may have made an offer to you, it is not official until you accept it. And you still may need to provide additional documentation. So even then, it's subject to change. So make sure that you're keeping up with your emails, and once you're accepted, keeping up with your to-do list, because there's going to be a number of things that you're going to need to do to make that transition seamless. And then finally, figuring out logistics before the start of class so that you're not stressed out that first day. So things like getting your textbook list and then figuring out how you get your textbooks and where you get your textbooks. Parking, how much does parking cost and where can you park? Because on a big university campus, there may be certain lots that are designated for commuters. And if you're going to live on campus, you may not even be able to have a car, or you would have to get special permission. So sort of figuring all of that out in advance is key. Um, if you have back-to-back classes, is there enough time? That's going to vary depending upon if you're at a big school like, let's say, College Park, where things are really spread out, or a medium-sized school like Towson, which is more centralized. And so really making sure you're not setting yourself up to be late to class every day. You don't want to start off that way. So those are some key things when it comes to accepting admission and going through that formal process.
So some things that you should be doing right now. Right now, you should be seeing your academic advisor, whether you have one that assigned to you, whether you have a person that you normally work with, or whether you just need to make that initial connection. You really should be working with a CCBC academic advisor. If we have a partner at the university of your choice, we can connect you with that person as well. You need to make sure that you're aware of the CCBC applications for graduation and the deadlines and the fees involved in that, and making sure that you apply for graduation because life could happen along the way. We want to make sure that that credential, that degree is part of who you are and that you can put it on your resume. And again, once you have picked that school, you need to make sure you send them your final transcript. Financial aid and scholarships for transfer. These are really key. We've talked a lot about financial aid already. Anne was great and showed you how to get into the FAFSA and add more school codes. But you really need to make sure that you're doing your FAFSA and that you've done it on time. So right now, if you have not done your FAFSA for next year, you should be doing it. Okay, it opens every year on October 1st. And I know that was in a previous slide that Anne had. The FAFSA is the very first thing that you need to do to be able to see any type of aid that you may be eligible for. But in addition, after that, you need to see, are you eligible for state aid, scholarships, grants, senatorial, delegate? There are all kinds of things that are out there, but you have to be early and you have to ask. Institutional aid as a transfer student, do they have transfer scholarships for folks? Often these are merit or grade based, so the better your grades are, the more likely you are to get some of that school specific money. And then of course the federal aid that many colleges have, so your Pell Grants. But again, we talked about in a previous session, there's only but so much money that you get for Pell Grant. Doesn't matter how much your college or university costs, there's a limit to Pell Grant money. You may be needing to take out a loan. And if that is the case, that's where you need to be talking to the financial aid office on that campus. Is it subsidized? Is it unsubsidized? What does that mean? It's their job to answer your questions. So go in and ask those questions. And then work study. Work study is where the federal government pays the college or university to pay you to work at the college or university. So it's a really good way to get some work experience, but not have to commute far away to take a class and then, try to move your car and come back to campus to take your classes. Okay. So I know that I had my slides out of order. So FAFSA, October 1st, that's where it was coming from. State aid deadline is March 1st, but most colleges and universities have their own deadlines, so you really need to look. I recommend that you create a Word document or an Excel sheet or notes or what have you, and we've talked about this before, for whatever school that you're interested in, and that you write down all those deadlines so that nothing sneaks up on you, and that you make sure that you put them in your calendar on your smart device so that you get reminders of things that need to be done. This isn't just a walk in and be accepted kind of experience. You're going to have to do a little bit of planning. Again, though, you can come in and see academic advising here. We can talk to you about how do you find those dates and deadlines. And you can also ask our financial aid office some really basic questions about preparing to be at the university.
And I just want to mention, if you're a state of Maryland resident, your FAFSA has to be completed by March 1st. And then you should know that each school is also going to have their own deadlines, which may be sooner than the other deadlines. So as Courtney said, really knowing and differentiating between the deadlines, because things can start to run together. So being organized is key. Also note, and this might come as a surprise, that not all schools give out institutional aid in the spring. Some schools will award all of their institutional aid for the academic year. So for example, at Towson, you have to have your FAFSA in by March 1st, and it only applies to the fall semester. So if you end up starting in the spring semester, you have to wait to the following fall to qualify and be considered for institutional aid. So just some key things to know that, if you do your research, you can probably figure it out, but it's not so easy to find. And so that's why we're sharing that with you, so that you know in advance that that's a good question to ask. Do you award your institutional aid in the fall and spring, or is it fall only? So just something to consider. Some other things to know when it comes to scholarships. Scholarships are gifts that generally do not need to be repaid and are offered by schools, employees, individuals, private companies, nonprofits, religious groups, and professional and social organizations. And so that runs the gamut of all of the different options. Scholarship amounts and types are going to vary. So a scholarship may cover the entire cost of tuition, or it could simply be a one-time award. Either way, it is worth applying to reduce your cost, your out-of-pocket cost for education. Some scholarships are merit-based that require meeting or exceeding certain standards set by the scholarship giver. Others are based on financial need as determined by the FAFSA or the CSS profile. I realize we didn't touch on the CSS profile, but that is another version of like the FAFSA. So it's an application, an online application that is generally used and by many private institutions or very expensive institutions, and it collects a lot more in-depth information to determine your eligibility. So I just wanted to mention that since we didn't cover it in this workshop. Many scholarships are geared towards specific groups such as underrepresented populations, such as women, minorities, non-traditional students, active and military affiliated students. Others may be available through you or your parents' place of employment, your church. So you want to really look around and see what options may be available to you. And in terms of when to apply, apply in February if you are planning to graduate in May or August, and apply in October if you are planning to graduate in December, January. So you know, now is the time, if you have not done so already, as we're in the middle of November, you really want to get on that so that you don't miss out on those opportunities. And then when it comes to private scholarships, generally they can be offered by nonprofit organizations, individuals, government agencies, foundations, including university foundations, and a number of other sources. The organization or donor selects the recipient and sends the fund to the school on behalf of the recipient. So these are just 5 really common scholarships that are available. So hopefully you've heard of Phi Theta Kappa or PTK. We have a thriving chapter here, and I think it's multiple chapters here at CCBC. And so by being a part of that organization, you are, you know, automatically eligible for those Phi Theta Kappa scholarships. I myself was a recipient of a Phi Theta Kappa scholarship, and so, you know, again, every little amount makes a difference. And then you have the Coca-Cola Scholars Foundation, the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation, which is a super amazing scholarship, but it's incredibly competitive. And over the years, we have had CCBC students selected for that prestigious scholarship. You've got the United Negro College Fund, the Hispanic College Fund, and there's a plethora of others that are out there. And we are in the process of revamping our online transfer center to include this updated scholarship information. And so you can be on the lookout for that information there by the end of this year. And so finally, we have some tips or takeaways for applying for financial aid and scholarships. So really it starts with deciding where you will live, because that's going to impact what you will qualify for and how much really everything is going to cost. It's definitely a lot cheaper to commute from home or to, you know, live nearby in an off-campus apartment where maybe you share costs. You'll want to definitely review the cost of attendance, which includes tuition, fees, room and board, which is where you live, books, supplies, and transportation. Usually this is an estimate based on the average cost of additional educational expenses, but those direct costs are typically tuition and fees, and then if you're living on campus, the room and board. So calculating that plus all of the additional fees. Calling on those faculty with whom you have a strong rapport to write scholarship letters of recommendation, because a lot of times for these really competitive scholarships, you have to also have a letter of recommendation. And so knowing who you can call on, just like with the admission letters of recommendation, you want to give them plenty of time and all the pertinent information. And then same thing with essays. Again, for more competitive scholarships, you may need to submit an essay because you're competing against, other students. And so having those essays reviewed by the Writing and Literacy Center, which is here at CCBC. We also have the online writing lab. Perhaps you have a great relationship with one of your English faculty members or someone in your circle with a strong writing background. It's really important that you have it looked over and embed that in your planning process so that you give yourself and your reviewer plenty of time, especially if you need to make any edits. And then most importantly, if we've said nothing else, I think over the past 3 workshops, the key is to stay organized, paying close attention to those deadlines, because they can make that difference for you. If you miss those deadlines, you might have lost an opportunity. And also making sure that you're following up. Everyone is busy, so showing your interest and commitment can often go a long way. So with that, we wanted to open it up to questions. And so if you have any questions, you can put them into the chat. Otherwise, seeing as there are none at this point, we want to thank you for listening in today. And this will conclude our workshop series for the fall semester. Feel free to reach out. We've listed here our contact information along with the transfer coordinator contact information for each of the main campuses. And we wish you well as you pursue your transfer destinations. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.